Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of From the Cheap Seats Wrestling Podcast. I am your host today, Chris Branson. And today we're going to talk about Raw, NXT, and Dynamite, along with a little bit of the scuttlebutt and drama going on inside the world. A few opinions on how to better said tribalism and other things you hear about uh, throughout the interwebs or the IWC, us marks and smart marks alike. Um, First off, let's see here. I'm gonna add some things. Uh, just so you know, go ahead and do the instructions below. Follow us at FTCS Podcast on X. Subscribe to the From the Cheap Seats Wrestling Podcast on the YouTube. Let's go ahead and get into Monday Night Raw a little bit. My opinion, it was a little bit of a throwaway Raw. The reason why I say is I mean, in a couple days you're going to see the start of a new roster between Raw and SmackDown. I'd love to see how NXT is going to play into this. Are they staying the developmental brand, or are they going back to being a la the same as SmackDown Raw, a third business brand for the WWE? Um, and I mean, it kind of felt a little dull. Not saying that Monday Night Raw lately has been dull in any way, shape, or form, but it felt a little listless. You know, the action didn't pick up until the women's battle royal, to which we'll get into here shortly. Um, I thought that the Uso and the Damian Priest promo, it set up in most part what's coming at Backlash there in Lyon, France on May the 5th or 4th. Uh, and yeah, the problem with that segment was not Jimmy Uso. It was Damian Priest. Now, I know that Damian Priest can talk. Punishment Martinez, whatever you want to call his gimmick name, the dude can talk flat out. Has no issues. It just seemed in the moment, now that he is in the spot that he's in, that it felt a little flat coming from him. And then the interference right after with JD McDonough didn't really make any sense. Now, if it's a way to start the slow and eventual crack, fissure, and dissolution of the Judgment Day, okay, I understand why he was a part of that, and how he didn't take the bullet for the champ. Um, and I can get the logic behind how that was booked or produced, but post draft, I think we need to see more of Priest. Now, the draft rules have been set out, and if I remember correctly, it's 16 talent are going to be drafted between Raw and SmackDown on Friday, 24 between Raw and SmackDown on Monday. The champions of both brands are locked to their brands, so they are not draft eligible. NXT talent is also eligible to be drafted into Raw or SmackDown. As I said, when you have the stuff on the TV saying, "Oh, hey, by the way, this is what's up," uh, you kind of wonder where they're going with NXT. Um, Now, uh, long term, you know, we're going to see at least the next year, maybe 2 years, of what Raw and SmackDown are going to look like. Hopefully, they stick to it every year, or like they've been doing some years, half year switch ups to where there are trades, and see where we're going to go from there. Next match I want to talk about is Austin Truth and DIY. Now, this has nothing against R Truth. and The Miz. It doesn't. But I'm not the first person I've seen say that they're transitional champions. I'm glad that R-Truth is getting a real championship. The first real championship he's had since he was NWA World's Heavyweight Champion long time ago in TNA. And he's getting to do it with The Miz. A lot of us wonder, now that CM Punk is back, if it's 2011 all over again. This time, though, Awesome Truth are baby faces instead of heels. And they were up against DIY. Now, DIY, Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa, we already know their resume as tag team. Tag team champions in NXT, North American champion, both were world heavyweight champions. Johnny Gargano, I believe, is still, or no, no. I think Johnny Gargano is still the only Triple Crown NXT winner in the history of NXT. I might be wrong, but their resume is pretty stacked. Their trophy case is pretty full. It was not a 5-star match in any way, shape, or form. Probably about 3.5, 3 3/4 stars if we're going to go by the Meltzer scale here. Which, I have nothing for Dave Meltzer, so kind of just spitballing, my star rating here. But I thought it was a little flat. I expected more. I expected a thicker pace between Awesome Truth and DIY. And then at the end, during the, post-match respect session that was going on, you see Tommaso Ciampa walking away. Now, I don't know if that's hinting to a heel turn in the future, or it may be hinting to a heel turn for both him and Johnny Gargano, especially now that you have Candice LeRae and in some shape or form Indy Hartwell becoming heels. So it'll be interesting to watch as things go on here lately. Next thing that came up was the Gunther promo. Now, back in the day, Vince McMahon would not herald a foreign performer unless he felt really secure in them being able to talk on the stick and putting a championship on their back for as long as they did with Gunther. Now, let's remember, Vince McMahon versus Triple H here. Vince McMahon wanted to make Gunther some goose-stepping Nazi character. He was trying to make him a joke. Couldn't understand him right away. And then thankfully, we were all relieved to be relieved of Vince for a while. Triple H kind of made Gunther make sense again. He had this 800-day run as NXT UK champion. He had the 666-day run as Intercontinental champion. In all honesty, better than the Honky Tonk Man. In one, Chris Jericho, Edge, The Miz, all in one run. Why do I say that? Well, those are the men that used to have the longest, Honky Tonk Man, and Jericho and Miz have the most Intercontinental title reigns. So Gunther setting out his sights now post Intercontinental champion towards the King of the Ring. Now, I think it'll probably be him or Chad Gable potentially being this year's King of the Ring, kind of to set Gunther into the flat-out main event level card of shows. While Chad Gable, and we'll get into Chad Gable a little bit more later on. Chad Gable after that Intercontinental match, yes, he's pissed off, so he's trying to make his mark. Whether it's with Sami Zayn during the course of things here in the near future, or it's trying to become King of the Ring. But let's not get lost on Gunther and Imperium. Gunther can talk. He is world champion, intercontinental champion, U.S. champion, tag team champion, whatever brand you want to throw him on, whatever title you want to give him, he's worth holding it, and he makes that title look like $1,000,000. It's not a paperweight to him. He takes it serious. He takes the gimmick serious. He takes that, you know, I'm the ring general. Very, very serious to him, as his gimmick line is, the mat is sacred. You know, a lot of people don't have that dedication to their character, let alone dedication to the craft, which is professional wrestling. Um, but he set it up pretty nice in regards to what his future lies. Now, what happened afterwards? Pretty interesting. Of course, he had Imperium with them, and Imperium, you know, where Imperium goes, New Day is surely not too far to follow. And, the reason why I say this is also going back to Gunther's announcement of his participation in the King of the Ring. There was also another former King of the Ring in the house, two actually. We'll get to the other one here a little later. Xavier Woods came out and explained that he is still the reigning and defending King of the Ring, and he himself will participate in this forthcoming tournament to have its finals in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. Now, I kind of think, go back to the old school, that you have your three courses of matches, your two semifinals and your one finals match, in regards to your women and your men for King and Queen. The match between New Day and Imperium, kind of same old stuff as to what they've been doing, the same tag team moves and whatnot. But it was the end of the match that it has everybody talking. Ludwig Kaiser, Marcel Barthel, whatever you want to call him, turning on his tag team partner, Fabian Eichner or Giovanni Vinci. It makes you wonder whether they're going to do a Giovanni Vinci. Obviously, they see something in Ludwig Kaiser to kind of do this breakaway right before the draft. Now, it kind of didn't make sense to me that they would do a breakup or at least a fracturing of Imperium right before the draft. But I'm not going to question Triple H's booking. Obviously, he sees long term, long sight. So there is a means to the end. There's a method to the madness. There's a light at the end of every professional wrestling tunnel. Moving on to the other King of the Ring mention in here. Former King of the Ring, nearly ultimate Grand Slam champion of the WWE, Sheamus. Sheamus lately has been getting body shamed, I guess you could say. He's been getting remarks about his dad bod. Present company included, I have a dad bod. It's not the most attractive thing, but hey, I ain't afraid to take my shirt off, which is not going to happen today. Him and Drew, it's easy to enjoy a promo because they're going to barb each other, and they're trusted with those sticks to kind of keep it within the context of what they're talking about. But also, they can ad lib. The beauty of this new era is that your talent have an ability to talk now. It's crazy. Scary, I know. And, they set up whatever future feud or side feud or whatever you want to call it, right after Drew gets done with Punk or Priest or whatever's being lined up for Drew McIntyre. And honestly, everybody who's wondering, speculating, worrying about, oh, hey, did Drew McIntyre sign? They wouldn't keep him in the main event picture or keep him main event relevant if he wasn't. Um, the match between him and Shinsuke Nakamura, I think it was a nice pace for Sheamus to pick up speed again. Nakamura is both strong and a little quick in the ring. So, it was a good cardio session to be had. Of course, the bro kick ended the match, which was real nice. It's nice to see Sheamus again in the ring. It's nice that a neck injury didn't steal us away a possibility to see him finally achieve the last step in immortality within the WWE. Uh, but long term, I would love to see where they're going to go with this. Then you have the promo with Chad Gable and the soon to be departed uh, Alpha Academy, I believe. The way, he cut them down on Monday, that faction's not long to last. Pretty much calling Otis his greatest disappointment. Calling Maxine pretty, but can't get anything done in a ring, I believe was what he said, or paraphrasing here. And then, Akira Tozawa, he was pretty much saying that Akira Tozawa was a joke because of his win loss record and a joke because he, didn't take things seriously. Which cool. Hey, you know what? That's whatever. If you want to barb your talent, cool. Um, you want to barb your stablemates, that's cool. It's going to come back. It's going to pay off in the end. Uh, which honestly, I eventually see a Team Gable, a Team Angle offshoot, which is coming about with him and the Creeds. It would bring more legitimacy in if you could talk Kurt Angle into a manager, a Ric Flair role, if you will. Not have to wrestle, but if he needs to within what his body can handle, he can take bumps or at least light bumps or throw a punch if he needs to, or you get physically involved, for lack of a better term. But I would like to see that. And Ivy Now. Let's hope that Ivy Now doesn't get lost in the mix because she herself is a really good female hand. And, you know, outside of her performance with Rhea Ripley and a few others, yeah, I like to see more of Ivy Now. Going from that promo into another match here, Ricochet and Andrade versus McDonough and Escobar. Now, this is where I see the furthering of said fracture in the Judgment Day. Now that mommy is away, the cats aren't getting along enough to play right, I guess you could say. Um, Ricochet and Andrade obviously picks up the win with whatever they're calling Andrade's finishing move now. Uh, and, Damian Priest at the end of it comes out and literally obliterates everybody, with the exception of, viscerally verbalizing his disgust with his stablemates. Ricochet, is going to entertain during a match. He's going to either take majority of the bumps or he's going to play the hero at the end, which is great because you know what? It only makes Ricochet be seen and on your TV screen, whether it's in the 7, 8, 9, or going Eastern time here, 8, 9, 10 o'clock hours. So that I was not unimpressed, but I want to see an Andrade. Andrade did not come back to do tag team wrestling. He came back to be a relevant main event or high mid card talent, and that's what you should expect from said individual. Now we're going to go into the main event, the Women's Battle Royal, to determine for the fourth time in WWE history a brand new champion in whatever division, whether it be men's or women's. Of course, Michael Cole harkened back to the Great Khali, to Gail Kim, and I'd like to say Batista were amongst that select group until last night. Obviously, we all know who won the match, and the internet wrestling community is not thrilled with it. But I see the premise, the point. You got to look at storylines and potential storylines and things like a tree. And Becky Lynch in herself is a tree, and she can go different areas of the tree because she's Becky Lynch. Same thing with Charlotte Flair. Same thing with Bayley. Bayley can have a match with Naomi, can have a feud with Tiffany Stratton, can still deal with having to deal with damage control. The beauty of professional wrestling, as I'd like to put it, is that, once you have those pillars in your divisions that you can branch a storyline from, and it's not that hard to put a eventually heel turning Liv Morgan up against Becky Lynch. It's not that hard to put a established monster heel in Nia Jax up against Becky Lynch, because it'll put asses in seats, because people will watch to see what happens. I have no problem with how it finished. I the only other person, the only other two people that I have even been on here on the interwebs and both my personal ex and the podcast ex said was Chelsea Green or Candice LeRae. Those two could have, built the case for each other, because Candice LeRae is getting more eyesight. Also, Chelsea Green, because since she's come back from TNA, she has shown the WWE why she should have never been cut during COVID to begin with. So, yeah, that covers Raw. So we're doing good on time here. I'm trying to keep it to an hour. We'll see how that goes. Next was NXT Spring Breakin' Night 1, or Week 1, or however we're going to call it. Started with the Women's Championship Triple Threat match between Roxanne Perez, Tatum Paxley, and Lyra Valkyria. Now, I see Lyra and Roxanne going to the main roster. I see Tatum being more of who they're going to build the main event picture around and put the title on. Tatum really did show that she is worth the talk and the introduction. Give me 1 second here. Into the women's main event scene. Paxley had some really big moves to Perez and Lyra Valkyria. The finish was pretty creative. Having Paxley 450 Lyra, and then as Tatum is trying to pin Lyra, Roxanne pushes Paxley off, and bridge pins or jackknife pins her for the win. Yeah, it was good. I'm liking this heel Roxanne, because this heel Roxanne allows her to expand upon or build on moves that she doesn't normally use, or these moves that a heel would use and not a baby face in the moment. So really well done match. It was about 20 minutes long. It maximized TV time for what it was given. The D'Angelo family, and what I like to call right now, because we don't have a Drew Gulak here, is the 3/4 catch crew. To be a no quarter catch crew, you have to have. Well, anyhow, of course, Tony stood out. So did Charlie Dempsey from the no quarter catch crew. Uh, William Regal's son, Charlie Dempsey, is going to be something special in WWE when the time is right. He harkens back to his dad, but he also harkens back to an era of wrestling that we really haven't seen since Bret Hart. I mean, we see inklings of it with the Daniel Bryan or Bryan Danielson, excuse me, CM Punk, several wrestlers that still incorporate a technical style, but Charlie Dempsey is in his movements very much flash when it comes to his technical skill. I mean, he just competed in Bloodsport and won a match in Bloodsport in a shoot fight or a work shoot, whatever Bloodsport is. Really haven't taken my time, and I'll be honest, I haven't watched it. I would love to watch it. I'd love to give Brett Lauderdale more of my money, but that'll come down the road. Let's see here. The finish. Obviously, Tony D was going to get his penance. He was going to get his payback in flesh for doing a job for the no quarter catch crew to get rid of a certain founder of said group, I guess. Um, Moving on from there was Jada Parker and Fallon Hensley. It was a good, hard hitting match. They were working their paces. They got done in the ring what they needed to get done to put each other over. I was a little scared for when Fallon took that bump on the rope. Kind of looked like it knocked her a little bit loopy. Now, mind you, it set her up for eventually Jada finishing her off with that teardrop hip check. And that hip check hit smooth. And I'm not talking shoot, I'm talking the sequence of her utilizing it, Fallon taking it, and how everything finished was beautiful. Um, those two will be definite players in the long term future of WWE. And that's what I'm impressed by when it comes to NIL and how it incorporates itself down there in the Performance Center with picking up college talent from all different walks of college athletics, and even in some respects, college itself. People that may have never even touched a football or basketball or baseball in the course of their life. NXT maximizes on creating new stars, which is nice because back in the day, it was either you had a reputation or you were an enhancement talent, and we could just find you in any town, pay you $500 for the night if it was that much, and call it a day. Um, those two ladies show why the NIL program at the Performance Center works. Going from there into the beach brawl between Sol Ruka and Blair Davenport. Now, Blair Davenport's more your brawler. Sol is more of your high flyer. I loved the bumps that they took, the use of the props, the surfboard, the kickboard, the tabletop picnic table that they built, which was cute. I mean, I wish the covered stayed on top of the table, but you get the point. If they had actually really taken a bump through a picnic table, there'd be more injuries to that whole entire segment. Um, and finish coming with Sol beating Blair Davenport with a just amazingly beautiful springboard. What do they call it? A soul breaker, I believe it is. Uh, and it's or soul snatcher. That's what it is. Right onto that NXT kickboard. It was nice. Sol Ruka is somebody to look forward to in NXT post the draft. I think she could even be picked up in the draft to go to one of the two major brands. We'll see. Blair Davenport, I think she's getting a call up. That doesn't have to be said any differently. I think she goes north or to New York. Um, then you had Lexus King. Everybody knows him as the son of Brian Pillman Jr., but don't tell him that. He likes to live off of his own name instead of, as he says on his X, I ain't nobody's junior. Versus Baron Corbin. Now, Baron Corbin has had somewhat of a renaissance since returning back to NXT. There's a fire in him. The Lone Wolf stands out again. And I will be the first to tell you, as a professional wrestling fan here, that I had actually loved, excuse me while I fix my mic here, Lone Wolf gimmick. I really wish it had been built better on when he got brought up to the main roster a la 2016 there at WrestleMania 32 and became the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal champion for that match that year. His time between then and return to NXT was hit or miss, but I'm very happy to see that Baron Corbin has been able to rebuild himself or renew himself into the badass that we all expected him to be in the course of things on TV. Lexus King, he's shaking off the AEW era under his former name, real life name, mind you. Kind of, the jury's still out, but I have really nothing to say negative. I mean, I know of his history in AEW and, the role that they had him in AEW during the course of his time there. But he did exceptionally well against a really well-seasoned veteran in Baron Corbin. I think it was the right finish, but, I'm just a fan. My opinion may not mean that much, but, you know, it was good to see that the established talent, if he is indeed leaving, is taking his bow uh, after wrestling Lexus King. Then we get to the main event of week one, night one. Ilya Dragunov, the champion, versus Trick Williams. And let me tell you, that match was good. If there was a shucky ducky quack quack, the quack quack, excuse me, if there was a shucky duck quack quack scale, uh, it'd be 5 quacks. Mind you, this is fan driven, fan graded, but it really sewed up the previous 3 matches and him overcoming Ilya, that being Trick, to finally achieve the one thing that he hadn't done on the single scene in NXT, which has become NXT champion, and he whooped that dragon. To see how the crowd reacted to Trick's win was amazing. And when I say amazing, when you have the whole entire place, when you have camera stands that are above this audience just shaking in different directions, you knew how much that meant to the crowd, whether it was the audience or the main event or main roster and NXT talent that happened to be in the crowd to watch the match. The post match, or excuse me, the finish, with the trick knee, the trick shot, as he calls it, getting there first before Torpedo Moscow. Nice callbacks, like I said. The end to where Ilya, and you don't see it very much anymore in professional wrestling, to where the former champion, you've only seen it a handful of times with former champions doing it, but I thought it was really honorable of Ilya Dragunov to hand Trick Williams the championship such as he did, and then, wish him well on the way out of the ring. we know it's the Trick Willie era, and we're looking forward to what Trick Willie is about to put on our TV either next week down the line at Battleground. Um, that's the saying if he doesn't get called up, that the sky is the limit for Trick Williams. Now, Ilya Dragunov, what can you say about Ilya Dragunov that hasn't already been said? Between NXT UK, between uh, NXT and his times there, he's been an exemplary performer, an amazing champion. He has represented the brand with an intensity and a respect that, as I said, is very old school. And I look forward to what he'll do on a Raw or a SmackDown. If I was male talent on those brands, I'd watch out because you're about to get some 5-star matches on some free TV. Um, Moving on from NXT, we're going to go ahead and preview AEW Dynamite tonight. We're going to have, as the sheet says here, a championship celebration for Little Nightingale. Now, you already know that Mercedes Moné is going to be involved in some way, shape, or form leading up to Double or Nothing against Willow. This harkens back to their New Japan Pro Wrestling Strong Openweight Women's Championship match, which ultimately saw Mercedes Moné, lose to Willow because of the the broken ankle. It's a nice little bow to tie on everything because obviously, what they're probably looking at doing is putting the championship on Mercedes, which cool. Hey, that's not my company. I'm not the booker. But Mercedes Moné, like I was saying, either you had a reputation when you come into a company, or let's see what you can do. Otherwise, you are just there to enhance the talent. John Moxley versus Powerhouse Hobbs. A really good heavyweight match. Moxley is on the ride of his life right now, considering he is the only man to have ever held in modern times the WWE Championship, the AEW Championship, and the New Japan Pro Wrestling Championship all at the same time. Or not at the same time, within the course of an individual career. I expect hard hitting. I expect John Moxley to probably bleed, and there might be some interference from the Don Callis family, and a hello said from the Blackpool Combat Club, as well as we're seeing where Will Ospreay, post Dynasty, sits. Is he with the Don Callis family as a heel? Is he eventually breaking away as a babyface? Who knows? Let's see here. Who else? Swerve Strickland and Kyle Fletcher. Another heavyweight championship eliminator match, this time for the AEW championship. While it's not on the line, it's going to be a good exhibition with Don Callis family member Kyle Fletcher and our brand new AEW World Heavyweight Champion Swerve Strickland. Now, on a personal note, he and I are both veterans. I admire his tenacity and his work ethic that he puts in from his time in service to his craft in professional wrestling. Heel, babyface, it doesn't matter. Swerve is the truth, whether it was Ring of Honor, WWE, WWE, NXT, or AEW, or any company he's wrestled in, he delivers. He definitely puts asses in seats, and I really do hope that his goal of putting over AEW to a casual crowd just as much as they do to a hardcore crowd does eventually work. You don't want businesses, companies to fail, and this is a time in which the performance art, the industry known as professional wrestling, is is actually thriving. We look at this month alone. We had a great pay-per-view across sets of pay-per-views across the board, whether it was New Japan Pro Wrestling, Windy City Riot, Dynasty, WrestleMania Night 2, you name it. Yeah, it was, and even Night 1. Night 1 wasn't horrible, um, but we really had a good month to eat this month, this April, and I'm looking forward to seeing what's coming in May. Um, the best friends drama between Trent Beretta and Orange Cassidy, and seeing where sexy Chucky T or Chuck Taylor lies. I kind of see Chuck Taylor siding with Trent Beretta and going heel, but you never know where they're taking this. Now that you've got an interaction between Orange Cassidy and Shibata here, at least recently in tag team work, it'll be interesting to see where they're going to take this feud, this storyline between the three best friends, including Shibata, if Shibata gets included. You have after that Anna Jay versus Mina Shirakawa, obviously being escorted to the ring by the protege, the understudy of Timeless Tony Storm, Mariah May. These two ladies, Mina and Mariah, both know each other from Stardom, and AEW has a relationship with Stardom, so it's going to be interesting to see where this goes. Anna Jay, formerly of the Dark Order, formerly of the Jericho Appreciation Society, so it's going to be fascinating how we're moving Anna Jay as a baby face. Is she going to do the job for Mina? Is she going to put Mina through the paces? We'll see tonight here at Daly's Place. We're also expected to get a promo from Chris Jericho, in which that in itself could be a powder keg waiting to happen. And what I mean is, if you go back to Dynasty on Sunday and you remember the reactions that Jericho got during his match with Hook, telling him, hey, you should retire or go away. For a guy who has a resume such as Chris Jericho, a wrestling resume, be it. And then, we've all heard the scuttlebutt about potential or alleged improper dealings behind the scenes with talent. It's neither here nor there for there to be discussed, because those are tort-related issues, for lack of a better term. So, we're gonna see what goes on there. And then we're gonna finish the show today with a little bit of talking about the scuttlebutt that you hear on the interwebs and the wrestling drama that you can see, through the dirt sheets, through the actual real news. Fake news, if you're a Trump fan, which, I'm neither here nor there, nor am I a fan of the guy in the charge there in Washington. But we're not making this about politics today. We're making this about professional wrestling, and we're going to stick to that. Lately, and it happened yesterday, it happened Sunday, insert Swerve Strickland's win and then Trick Williams' win, that, they're only, in the position they're in because they're being fed to somebody else down the line. You don't know how long Tony Khan or Shawn Michaels or Triple H are planning to keep championships on Swerve Strickland and Trick Williams. You don't. You don't even know how long they're going to keep it on Cody Rhodes or Damian Priest. Revel in the fact that these talent are getting an opportunity to represent their shows, their brands, their companies at the highest level. Obviously, if they're wearing the big gold belts, they've done something right to impress the people at the top of the food chain. So, and this goes not just for champions, but for everybody. Yes. Is it is it okay to have a personal opinion about how this person does one thing and that person does another thing, or the allegations, real life storyline, whatever? I'm not saying just enjoy the product, but sometimes just be realistic about your fandom. Sometimes you need to understand they don't book to make you happy. Sometimes they book to piss you off, but yet they know you'll be right back next week when they give you the payoff and put a smile right back on your face. So we all need to knock it off in some senses about being so attempted to be savage about things, because there's a method to the madness, a means to the end, as I said earlier, and a light at the end of every wrestling tunnel. Um, I think I already previously addressed the Becky Lynch title win pretty decently, but go back to the internet wrestling community, the interwebs, the the people who have an opinion, even though they've never put on the boots, me included. But I'm not looking necessarily for payday here or for somebody to live and die off of what I say. This is just a perspective that I give. Um, and you know, like I said, give this title win for like Becky Lynch to breathe. You're gonna get your payoff. You're going to get a heel champion uh, who beats her, whether it's a turning heel Liv, or it's a monster heel Nia Jax, or it's somebody else that they think deserves a run at the championship. I mean, with all the crazy storyline ideas, to include the one I think I heard the other day, which was Dom finding a new mommy and Liv, and then Rhea coming back as this monster babyface to reconcile their differences in whatever violent fashion later on once Rhea's shoulder is healthy. Uh, but give it time. Let it breathe. Give it some oxygen. Let that tree grow. Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon again is in the news, this time with his response to the sexual abuse and trafficking lawsuit filed against him by Janelle Grant, former lover and employee of the WWE. Um, he is trying to trigger what they call an arbitration portion. Now, arbitration portion does not necessarily assign fault or liability. It is simply, hey, where can we settle so this ends? And what I mean by that is he admitting guilt? No, but he's also not saying that he didn't do something, that he wasn't complicit as well. Um, when you want to settle, it's kind of, hey, yeah, I did some wrong, but there's more to this story than meets the eye, that kind of thing. And in the justice system, you kind of still have to give everybody their due. Even a murderer still um, is innocent until proven guilty. I'm not saying that I'm team murderer or rapist or anything else. Just saying that, sadly, we need to understand that even if they are douchebags to other people, there's still a process that has to happen that ultimately will determine where this goes. Does this mean that the lawsuit against John Laurinaitis will continue and WWE outright? She decides to separate the three. I have no idea. I would assume that with suing Vince, it'll probably allow him to settle on behalf of WWE. Who knows? Or WWE is probably settled with her already, and this is now just Vince McMahon and John Laurinaitis. Let's see here. Jack Perry. real quick on Jack Perry. Now that I've had a chance to look back and see how Jack Perry is being booked, um, and Bully Ray and Dave LaGreca were talking about it today on Busted Open Radio, which you can get on SiriusXM channel 156. Um, you can hear Busted Open After Dark featuring Uncle Bully at 9 o'clock as soon as Dynamite goes off the air, or the little overrun they do. But they hearken to what eventually Jack Perry's reintroduction into AEW could look like. To where one company heralds the former talent as the conquering hero, and the other company, tries to paint him as a miserable, sullen douchebag. I mean, I like CM Punk, so you know, and eventually to where uh, Jack Perry will have uh, an underlying, a subtle, subliminal face run while he's a heel, and more than likely running with the elite. Um, it'll be the interesting, sure, to see how he's going to get booked over the course of the next coming weeks. And then booking in general. You know, I think Tony Khan has heard it enough times here lately that he is kind of giving some trust to being able to allow a storyline to breathe. You know, yes, AEW does something good for its audience by allowing people to see new matches. Not arguing that point. You know, it is nice to see new talent and get exposed to new talent. But with a Dynamite, a Collision being your two-hour shows with Rampage, I would turn into your showcase if you're going to keep it around. If you're not going to move back to an AEW Dark Elevation, whatever they were doing on YouTube. If you're not going to move back to that, you're not going to scrap Rampage. Turn that into your showcase uh, TV show, to where all these new talent start to get their established looks from your crowd, even from the casual fan that decides, hey, Rampage is on right after SmackDown. I'm gonna go ahead and watch Rampage. You know, you know, let those guys help bring those eyes that you sorely need to get a better rating from. And the nature of the business is eventually ratings really aren't going to matter. It's going to be more advertising revenue and assets and seats when it comes to wrestling crowds at live events, whether it be house shows, PLEs, or tapings. But nature of the beast, now that streaming is a much bigger thing. Now, with WWE, do I really have to argue the booking? No. We are looking into the draft starting Friday and concluding on Monday, and then seeing that following NXT Tuesday after spring breaking, where pretty much all the dirt and dust settle amongst those three brands. But I imagine that we're looking at potentially, a replete era of Paul Levesque, Shawn Michaels booking that's going to make sense, that is going to consistently have payoffs instead of leaving you confused at the end of things as to why this went the way it did under the last days of the previous pencil holder there in WWE. Lord Voldemort, aka Vince McMahon. And then TNA. TNA, now that they have rebranded back to the original image, they're putting out great television. I think it was a big mistake for Anthem to let go of Scott D'Amore, because Scott D'Amore was making that brand really relevant, especially utilizing the Triple H disliked term, the Forbidden Door, real well between previous partners, i.e., AEW, and recent partner WWE for Mickie James's as well, Jordan Grace's appearances at the Royal Rumble. I'm looking forward to seeing if TNA does branch into NXT or main roster WWE for some crossover storylines. It'll make for interesting TV for sure. But they have a talent roster that is replete and with both veterans and up and comers. The rumor going around is Tessa Blanchard is going to possibly be returning to TNA. I neither have a negative or a positive opinion on that. She is still young, so hopefully whatever character flaws people did have a problem with her, she's resolved and corrected and matured from. She is still professional wrestling's. I'm sure that is still the only female heavyweight champion or world champion of any male division in any company. So she has a standard to live up to. I don't think she'll be back in the men's division though. But TNA, it looks like they're on the right course. So now that you have Eric Young, who has knowledge of the wrestling business, Frankie Kazarian, you have Sami Callihan back. I don't know what the deal is there, if it's a pay per appearance or if it's a return contract. Like I said, TNA, you can only go up because TNA has seen the bottom. WWE was trending towards the bottom. So long term, I'm excited to see what professional wrestling is going to be. It's cool to be a professional wrestling fan right now. It is. You don't have to be ashamed of it. You can wear a T-shirt in public and say, you know what, I support this wrestler, just like you wear a jersey to support your favorite football player or team. Looking at the fact that this is going to be the shortest of the 6 podcasts that I've already put out. Like I had said before, and if you will do me the indulgence, right down here on the crawler, follow me at FTCS Podcast on X, and subscribe to From the Cheap Seats Wrestling Podcast on YouTube, which you can catch pretty much every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and even sometimes an emergency broadcast whenever I feel like it. I know that me and John there with Chairshot Sports have talked about doing a collab. Hopefully we can maybe make something happen tomorrow, pre-draft, who knows, to where we can discuss what we think is going to happen night 1, night 2 with available talent. We'll see. But beyond that, remember why we are here, why we love it, and enjoy what is there. Make lemonade out of a lemon that you're throwing. Or if this match is horrible, you know what? Don't put it off on the next match that's going to be horrible too, because for every dud there's a 5-star. With that being said, this is Chris Branson from the Cheap Seats Wrestling Podcast, bidding you adieu and signing out for the night. Like I said, follow, subscribe. See y'all later.